Hello, and welcome back to Run It Back, where we are a man down apparently because Heather's gone to wash his hands. You guys have just missed the mukbang stream actually, because he was in here in the Discord call in the pre-show, smashing back some chicken wings. Anyways, look, we're back. Yeah, we took a break last week, but we're back better than. Oh, here he is.
Hey, mate. Welcome back.
Good. Hey, hold on. Can you hear us? Can you hear us yet? Hold on, wait.
This guy's in ears now. He missed most of the action. 5 minutes ago, he was sucking his fingers, and if you wait another hour or so, he'll be sucking his toes as well. So I'm looking forward to that.
No. Mitch, I charge for that content, so you don't get that for free.
Oh, unfortunate. Right.
If you become a Snowball patron, though, I'm sure we can get some pre-show antics going. Obviously, you know, there is a change this week. We have a presenting partner now. We would love to welcome Blue Microphones into the Snowball family. I, too, am the proud owner of a Blue Yeti, and it is absolutely crisp. Pilski, too. There he is. He's got it.
But here's what I cooked up earlier as you open up the oven, and out comes a Blue microphone. Look at what we prepared.
Just like the chicken wings, mate. Just like the wings.
All one within arm's reach. It's a staple, mate.
Yeah, it is an absolute staple. I think most people almost go through the Blue microphone. But if you want to, you can get your hands on one yourself. There is a giveaway running on the Snowball Esports Twitter right now. Entries close midnight tonight, AEDT, so you only have a few hours left to get the blue Snowball mic. Look, we've had enough blue balling on the timeline with Blue Microphones promotions. Please don't check my Twitter from about 5 days ago. That was a very.
I thought I was the most crass person on this broadcast. That's changed now.
Oh, here he is, the producer himself.
I don't know about that.
Is that the TMO? Is that the person that comes in when we needed to get a fifth judgment? I was like, I couldn't quite see if the ball was over the line there. Swifty, can you give us the rundown of that is that a try or not?
Yeah, we have our own Hawkeye. There you go.
Yeah. Anyways, I should, acknowledge the fact that we have a guest on this week. We've got Pilly, the one and only Pilly. You might know him from CS:GO, and you might know him from Valorant, apparently. But his the caster debate this week. Who is a Valorant caster in Oceania right now? No one really knows.
Yeah, true. Unless you've done all of the events, of which that you had to be physically present in Melbourne, which I was not. Then you're not a Valorant caster, so boys.
No one has actually been present for all the events. There's not a single caster right there in OC that has done every single OC event.
Yeah.
Hasn't Komodo?
No, Komodo didn't. I
mean, actually, no. Komodo hasn't done Summer Cup, so yeah, you're right. Tap head.
Komodo didn't do some of RV. He did miss a good chunk of RV. He did miss. Okay. I think he did first right, but he didn't do RV. It was something like that. But yeah, I'm pretty sure no caster's done everything. So it's kind of impossible. But yes.
Wow.
We have no Valorant casters in Oceania. There you go.
So, yeah.
Done.
Actually, no one's
so then
Valorant
what does that make the rest of all three of you guys cast? What are you now? Just nobodies?
I'm a StarCraft caster, dude. I don't know what you guys are talking about. That's my passion right there. Ready for new season of ANZ Champs to come up.
Someone called me a traitor because I actually came into this is quite funny. I came into a VOT broadcast of our local competition, and I was just kind of having some fun in the chat as I do, and then someone either ironically or hopefully not unironically, because that would be quite sad as a human being, is just are you supposed to be casting NA, you traitor? I'm like, I actually just finished casting NA was my response, and I was just being fully serious because I did actually just finish and I want to drop by. But I just thought that was quite an interesting comment. Okay, well, quite friendly,
bro, you're traitor. You're a traitor of your adopted region,
the person
bro.
at the customs when I arrived in Australia didn't even say that to me, and that would have been more relevant. So, yeah.
Anyways, there's a lot to talk about. If you saw the show tweet, Valorant has not stopped in Oceania. We have gone through the Valorant Oceania tour, gone through the 2 closed qualifiers, of which, Billy, you've done basically everything. Have you even joined Crash in the Observer booth? Because you were playing and then you were casting.
I haven't gotten onto the observing yet, although not many people know this, but actually I'm a superstar Fortnite observer on the Australian Open, so I'm literally the king of literally just fucking smashing my full stop button, cycling through 40 players waiting to see if someone's shooting, and then screaming at the producer. Oh, sorry, the in-game director, it is MC, to switch to my POV because I've got shooting, and then about 30 seconds later old mate's fucking built himself a castle and cannot be reached. So it's kind of anticlimactic. So I you know, a little bit of observing there on the side as well. Why not?
Top tier observing, man.
So if we've got the Rupert Esports the Rupert Murdoch of Esports, Joshua Swift, what are you, the CEO of Esports? Or like you're basically just doing everything now?
I mean, yeah, I am the CEO of Esports, little known.
I don't want to comment on any of that, guys. No comment.
Swifty was like the Illuminati guy behind AU Esports, but now he's shown his face, which I think is a bit of a mistake. Because now, like, Josh, what you should have done is the mistake. The first mistake was showing up the broadcast. The second biggest mistake you made was not showing up with a mask. Because I think having some ominous mask going on, maybe with a bit of a skull pattern going on as well, which just kind of adds to the narrative a little bit. I think that would be quite good for your character.
He could go for like the full anime route of like the black rim and like the tint and the glasses, and he's just like smiling, you know.
Oh, the best one. When you were still out in somewhere near Brisbane, I keep forgetting where some town. The point is, you had this cool setup where the cameras behind you, and all we could see was the back of your head. And that was quite ominous because I thought it was like, oh my god, look at this guy. He's got like a million screens as well. He's like secretly controlling Australian esports from the shadows. Like all you can see is a silly weight of a man, and that was quite ominous. But also, I also did say I described you as like you kind of look like the dealer from Deal or No Deal, like just secret. Like how much? What kind of money am I offering now? Like is this good enough? Or is he going to take the deal? Like that part is also equally true.
Yeah. Anyways, lads, we have only got an hour, so let's talk about some Valorant. I guess the real thing with the Valorant Oceania Tour is now that we're looking at the Stage 1 finals, Pilly, as I guess a new caster in the Ocean Valorant scene, you have been around for a while though, and I would like to give you the floor here to try and defend yourself from the people on Twitter saying that you don't know Valorant, because a little birdie has told me that you're Radiant, which means that you're more qualified, I guess, as a good player than 99% of the people on Twitter saying you're not.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that really means anything, to be fair. I think ranked matchmaking is like the biggest clown fiesta I've ever seen. But I had at one point I had 2 accounts in Radiant, and still for the most part do have 2 accounts in Radiant, so I still keep up to date with playing the game. And obviously we threw together a team, me and some old mates, to play in this Valorant competition, which it has an interesting story behind it. Like we had this shittiest team that we threw together in Counter-Strike, and we actually played the LPL like Counter-Strike CGP qualifiers or whatever, and we were able to qualify for like the professional league, in, well, loosely professional league, because I feel like there was not like the top tier of teams in Oceania playing in that league at the time, but we called ourselves the shit idiots, and LPL said, you can't call yourselves the shit idiots. So that's how this whole like shit idiots tag was born. So we kind of just tried to do the same thing. We threw together a team of 5 blokes who kind of know how to play decently. And I kind of just tried to throw some strats together that I thought would work and get all the boys on the same page. And we just try to play properly, like not just pugging it out, not playing 4 duelists and 1-4 stacking sites like I've seen some of the other teams in Oceania do, which kind of hurts my brain. But you know, we try to play properly, and we did qualify for the closed qualifier, and I was a bit sad that I didn't get to keep playing that. But obviously, for me, casting kind of takes precedence, and I guess sort of to break off on another entire tangent is that I kind of get inspired by people who both fulfill color commentary duties or analyst duties, and who are actual like pro players or are knowledgeable about the game. So a big example of this is like TY in StarCraft 2. He was commentating the GSL the same season that he won the whole thing, and you know, fulfilling a lot of those duties. So people like that, as well as like a lot of analysts in Dota and stuff like that, are a pretty big inspiration to me.
I was about to congratulate. I was about to just full applaud you there, but then you had to add the part about pro players. I'm like, oh shit, he's not talking about me anymore. So, true, but also, damn, dude, that stung. You didn't have to do me like that.
I mean, coach is close enough, Kev. The 3-month coach of Direwolves, where you guys had some incredible results.
Add that to the resume thing, yeah.
Yeah,
a little bit of small coaching stints across the games that I've done. Not my main focus. I think, like for me, it's been mostly about being an analyst and being a good caster for the most part, especially more now than before. Anyway, whereas before maybe I was considering coaching seriously, but now it's more like probably casting. So yeah, I think a lot of the good color casters come from a position of you're either Pilly as someone that's been a high level player, pro player, or been around that kind of group and has a solid analytical base to come from.
Yeah,
it's or maybe if you're a coach or something. Yeah,
it's like a very loose like word of pro player, because I don't feel like the level is really that high, and it speaks a lot to the fact that you're able to just chuck a pug team together and qualify through to the closed qualifier and things like that.
That is true.
But in saying that, sorry, I'm kind of cooked at the moment, so I'm losing my train of thought with what I was going for there, because you were picking up like a good point. But I honestly completely forgot what I was going to say, because I didn't even get the chance to sleep last night. I was on that ESCA Premier broadcast grind.
Oh yeah, I mean, if we're going to talk about pug teams, is Crunchy in chat? Because he had something to say about pug teams as well. Oh, you saw that, Rack?
Yeah, that's become like a Valorant Oceanic meme now.
I didn't see this.
I remember what I was going to say, which is just that, like, you were talking about defending yourself against people on Twitter and things like that. Personally, I don't think it's really necessary, but in terms of that, like, I guess on a Valorant basis, it's one thing, but for me, I feel like I've done more than enough work in terms of, like, studio broadcasting hours and grinding various things to, like, warrant getting hired for stuff like this. But it's all a matter of perspective, different TOs and different people have their different preferences, and that's what it always comes down to at the end of the day.
I think this is quite interesting, because I don't know if we want to continue on this topic or talk about some other stuff yet, but like, just to add on to what Pilly says, it's kind of like right now you have a sort of space where, like, I think this entire topic started from a position of frustration, where there's obvious frustration out into the field where, certain casters would like to get further opportunities and they feel for whatever reason they are not, or whatever. And I mean, this happens at all levels. Like, I didn't get further opportunities in OC. I would love to be casting OC. I would love to be doing it. I did not get further opportunities, or the opportunities didn't line up with what I can afford to do, or stuff like that. There are multiple reasons why I couldn't do it. But it's not like I abandoned AU. I seriously wanted to do AU, but it went in a direction that wasn't going to, that doesn't align with what I can do. And that goes for most of the casters. Like, I think, Mitch, you were in the same boat. Mac is someone that I cast with. Like, Mac and I did a shitload of casting last year in Valorant, and I thought Mac and I were right at the top. We were doing really good stuff there, and if we were talking about if it was going to be hiring based on merit, like who the absolute best talent were, I think Mac and I would have continued to be hired. But that's not what it is. I mean, we're talking about the fact that you had a broadcast based out of Melbourne that only hired out of Melbourne. Well, that cuts Mac and I out straight away.
Exactly.
And then you have a broadcast this year where, unfortunately, internally, from the business side of things, it doesn't line up with expectations from the casting side, and that cuts both Mac and myself out. So again, it never comes down to who the best casters are. So I think people who get frustrated, like, oh, but I think I'm better than this guy, and I should be doing it. It's like, mate, if the best people are working, none of you would be fucking in here right now. None of you would be on these broadcasts if the best people are actually working. So let's cut that shit out straight away. Second of all, is like, I get the frustration, but it does come from the fact that there's a lot of casters, right? There's actually, I don't know if I'm surprised by this or whether it actually makes a lot of sense, but there's actually quite a lot of casters, not just here. I mean, globally, I don't need to talk to you about how competitive NA is. There's a million casters there. There's a lot of casters here in OC as well. And naturally, when you have like 20 casters and only like one broadcast running right now, a lot of people are not going to get the work that they think they should be getting, or the work that they want.
I mean, Josh in background just may as well cycle through to the topics. We've got the overlay for this one. We may as well just get straight into the caster drama now.
We already went deep. We're so deep. We're not gonna. We're already so deep in it. We're gonna do it. Billy dived in, and I dived in right after him, and now the rest of you got to follow.
Yeah. So I guess it is the prevailing topic in the discourse so far is this caster drama. And I feel like we can't really talk about it without a bit of context of the subtweeting that happened. Obviously, I'm not going to go into too much depth about it. But Rack, I'm very interested, I guess, to hear your thoughts on it, because I was speaking about it actually before the show. Like, you were following it a little bit. Like, do you think that casters in this region, like, speaking as someone, you haven't really casted a lot of Valorant, but you did cast Overwatch. Like, are the opportunities there that you can actually, like, be forward on Twitter? Because it's been I guess a prevailing thing over the last few days is casters are standing up for themselves now.
Yeah, it's sort of like a reaction, right? It's like I wouldn't exactly say the word territorial, but when you're invested into something, and that you don't exactly get what you want, and when it happens consecutively, I can understand where the frustration stems from. And from someone who has sort of been at that, uh, amateur level, I would say, or less than amateur, whatever you want to call it, community caster level. Um, it is very difficult to gauge how good you are as a person because let's not forget when you're out in the community caster level, you don't have a full production staff behind you giving you advice on how to refine a lot of things. So a lot of the time, like these people who are at this sort of level, which I'd include myself in, don't actually know how good they are, and they find it very scary to ask people who are clearly qualified within the industry in order to have help because they either feel intimidated or maybe they don't think it's necessary or whatever because it's like a huge gray area, right? And I know recently a lot of casters have been asking for help in a lot of these areas, and I encourage that. I mean, you recently saw Sandman, right, post up on Twitter that he's willing to give help to any of these types of people who do need that extra sort of push forward in terms of professionalism, knowing how to establish yourself on camera. I mean, it is an invaluable experience, right, from someone who's been in the industry for a very long time. And I think if you are at that community caster level, you need to, I mean, you can approach these guys because a lot of the time they're very open. I mean, I a lot of the tips that I've got over the years, probably through Avril, Xenox, Hysterics, and they all came to me, with open arms, and they were very helpful
It's 'cause you're
in
so
terms of the
huggable.
advice. Exactly, mate. Look at this. This is a huge hug for you right now, mate.
You would be
But
more
yeah.
huggable if you wore that Snowball jersey that's in the background of your
That's
picture.
why all the arms are so open then. Like I just
It's-
can't help but
yeah.
open my arms.
Because that's your jersey, Ducky. That's why it makes
Exactly.
me even more huggable. Exactly.
Does it still smell like me 2.5 years later?
What?
Ben
I
Green,
would
by the
never
way,
know.
is I mean, he needs no introduction for the people that know who he is, but he's the veteran of Oceanic Esports.
Yeah.
This guy is like the public version of Swifty, where Swifty works behind the shadows. Ben is a lot more public. So, and he's someone who I would even I'm not above talking to him and getting advice as well. Like he's got so much experience there. Like I happily still keep up with Ben. I'm not shying away from that at all as someone that's more experienced. So it's just super invaluable stuff. But I think there's a lot since esports popularity kind of blew up a bit. And now with COVID, it's retracted a bit. So the bubble expanded, and now it's retracting a bit. And now I think there was a time in a world where maybe somewhere between 5 to 10 years ago, we didn't have enough casters. And it was literally like, hey, do you know someone who can cast? We need to get a caster. Like, who do you know that can cast? Because there was no casters. But since the last 5 years, where there's been a bit more of a boom, there's been a hell of a lot of casters just appeared out of nowhere. I don't know. It just became a super popular thing. I think people looked at the LCSs, looked at the League of Legends, looked at the big international broadcasts and like, oh, that's so glitzy and glamorous and everyone wants to be part of it now. It's like, I want to be a movie star too. And then suddenly you have just the floodgates have opened and all these casters have appeared while the scene is still trying to find work for the casters that had been there. And for the most part, we were just dudes. We were just dudes that happened to be there because we were older and we were around and we just happened to be the right place at the right time to start casting. None of us came into it like, I'm going to be a superstar caster and I'm going to be on the League of Legends World Championship Grand Finals. Like, no one had those kind of aspirations. We just all kind of did it. And now you have a new wave of casters where I think a lot of new casters, not to maybe speak too hard to their intentions, as I'm not going to put words in their mouth, but it's like I feel like a lot of them are not, they didn't come in for the same reasons. So they're coming more because maybe they just straight away think they can make a career out of it and they're getting a bit disillusioned. And that's when you get frustrated because you're starting to get frustrated when you thought the pathway was going to be more clear and you'd get a lot more and then you're suddenly not. But the truth is the pathway's never been clear and it's never been a thing where you can just hop in and be like, this is your career now. It's the same as being a player. How many players can just pick up a game and be like, I'm going to be pro? Like that sounds like a fever dream. That's not like something you can guarantee or really think it should ever be a guarantee. But I think maybe people have misplaced expectations and that's why they're frustrated.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to suck up all of your 1 hour or whatever with my ramblings, but just to pick up on what both of you guys were saying, I feel like I'm in a unique position because I basically did 0 bedroom broadcasts before I started doing commentary and things like that. I was basically one of my teams fell apart in Counter-Strike, and literally that same week, Elfish Guy was like, anyone want to cast like this is Zen League stuff, or anyone just want to cast in general on Twitter who's interested? And I just sent him a DM, and then that weekend I was on the analyst desk for Zen League, and I was absolutely horrible. And I still don't think I'm particularly fantastic at what I do, but like years and years later, I'm still doing that. But I didn't do a bedroom broadcast for like multiple years, like for like 2+ years. I literally didn't do a broadcast from home ever. I was only doing studio broadcasts with ESL Australia. So it's kind of like the opposite for me, where I think I sort of just walked into the right opportunity at the right time. And I knew Ben Green from many, many years ago when he was like commentating my crappy Call of Duty games, and some of the other guys from ESL Australia. But Ben Green and some of these other guys from ESL Australia, like Elfish Guy and things like that, have been massive, massive mentors for me and facilitated my growth. And I'm lucky with what Rackets was saying before about the production team giving you feedback and things like that. I'm basically the equivalent of like that fucking dead shit player who gets picked up by a really good team, and he just gets so fucking good in like, a month or 2 or something like that. I mean, I'm not saying I'm particularly good at what I do, but you basically just get fast tracked to improving because you're getting mentored and you're getting handheld by people who are in the know and know what's going on. So I was super, super lucky in that regard to have that mentorship and have that opportunity. And, since then I've probably put 2,000 or 3,000 hours into studio broadcasts. And I don't know if I've even done 100 hours of home broadcasting and stuff like that. I mean, I only got this set up last year, I think, after 3 years of doing studio broadcasts.
Yeah. And I guess the thing is like, especially in a region like OCA, there's 2 big things that come out to it. Is one is that there is a very limited number of opportunities. Like, I guess if we're looking at Valorant specifically, what have you got? You've got LPL Summer Cup, which is like only got Tony on it. You've got the LPL Open and Closed qualifiers for VOT, which has had, I think, like at most 6-7 casters, like including the community casters. When you look at like Digital and Peronius and all those kinds of guys, and obviously you, Pilly, on the main broadcast this week. So there's very few opportunities. And then also on top of that, you've got OC Esports as an ecosystem, which is a very insular community. It's everyone knows everyone, especially like as you get closer to the top. And reputations are a big thing here. So like maintaining, I guess, a good relationships becomes just as important as the casting itself. I'm not sure about you guys, because obviously I'm not a caster. I'm just here writing. I kind of fell into the same opportunities as a journalist, and so my path is very similar, I guess, through that field, albeit there are a million more opportunities as a journalist than there are as a caster.
Yeah.
But for guys like you, Kev, it's, you've only got this small section of opportunities, and if the right one doesn't come, then you're basically just shit out of luck.
I mean, look, like this is, I don't know. I'll be honest. I'm not going to bring my own personal shit too hard into this topic, but it's like, I got some awful news today in regards to casting, and it's not Valorant related, so I'm not going to go into it. You can check my Twitter if you want to find out the details, but
Uber shouts.
Yeah, Uber Shouts has been talking about it as well. So Mitch has had the other Mitch, is the other Mitch. There's like 5 Mitches. Pilly, you're shaking your head, man. What's going on?
Well, who's the most important Mitch? Before we get over this hill, is Pilly the most important Mitch?
It's definitely not fucking me, mate. I'll give you that
much. Not just for this hour, in this 1 hour.
Okay, the point is, like, dude, I'm still losing work all the time. Like, there's got to be complaints at all levels. I'm complaining quietly inside a lot, and I complain like internally to people, just to people close to me that I can get advice on, and just people that will let me vent to them, and I appreciate that for people that I have vented towards. I know, I don't know, it's a therapeutic outlet, but at the same time, it's like everyone loses work and everyone wants to be in a better position than they currently are, and everyone needs to check themselves at all times to just be clear about where they actually should be and whether they should be getting something. They need to be talking to other people, talking to TOs, talking to their colleagues, and sometimes talking to the fan base. Not always, because they're not always correct, but like, you know, just get a good gauge on everything. But importantly, it's kind of a situation where, like, I mean, what you said, Ducky, there's just not enough opportunity. There's very few opportunities and a lot of fucking casters, like a real low, massive amount of casters, to be honest, based on the opportunities. It means the vast majority of these casters are not going to get opportunities because there just aren't those opportunities available unless more people become TOs and more organizations set up tournaments and do stuff. Like, these just don't exist. And it's like when you have guys like me who can't get any work in OCE because I've been cut out of opportunities. It's like, come on, like you got some really good talent like me and Mac, and for the longest time you as well, Pilly, until you had to make some tough choices. But it's just like, you know, there's a lot of good people out there that can't do these opportunities when they would love to, and they're more than qualified to. So I had a bit of a laugh when anyone's like, these people aren't Valorant casters. Like, what the fuck do you know? Like, how do you know what a Valorant caster is? Like, what's your credentials? It's like, you don't get to decide that. Like, you know, it's just silly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of in the same boat as well. Recently, found out that I was that we weren't going to be able to do like one of the shows that we were looking to do, and a lot of that work gets assigned through things that are outside of our control, at least with the people that work with ESL Australia. So it just is what it is. Sometimes, you know, we're in a pretty volatile, unstable sort of situation, and you know, you don't always have control of your own destiny a lot of the time when you're a caster. In fact, most of the time you can't just, you know, go out there and say, I'm going to work this event. It just doesn't work like that. You kind of have to forge your own path. And some of the time, for me included, and you, Kev, as well, recently, all of the hard work that you put in and all of the sacrifices that you make don't get rewarded, even though if sometimes it does pay off. And I feel like the sentiment on Twitter, it's interesting because it almost kind of feels like I don't know, it's almost like invalidating, like all the guys that are on the open qualifier grind and stuff like that don't realize that the same shit happens to everyone, man.
I don't realize that everyone's been on that grind. You know, we were all at one stage on that grind. Like, maybe again, Pelly, your situation's been different because you came into studio pretty quickly. But for guys like me, I came in super grassroots. Like, I had to come in right at the bottom, dude. I was like, my first cast was on somebody's Twitch stream that was like streaming to nobody. They were just like, who wants to cast? I'm like, I'll do it. And and then when I started trying to actually cast for real, I realized how hard it was. And this was again when there wasn't a lot of competition. So I got by when there wasn't a lot of competition. So I had the benefit of working through many years with low competition where I could train up and I could skill up and I could actually get good to the stage where I was deserving of the broadcast I was getting on based on merit and skill, and not just because there was no competition. And now when there is competition, I can hopefully show that my value, my worth is better. But, you know, that sometimes it's not enough. And so you get guys like me where I thought I had stuff going on. I had big broadcasts I was on last year that I was very proud of, and I just lost that. I lost work just even from today that I thought I was going to get this year. It's a big chunk of work. That's a lot of my income gone. It's not just about income, it's passion too. It's like work that I fucking loved, man. Like, I'm cut. I'm devastated. I'm extremely upset about the work that I've lost. And I thought I was going to get that. And it's just because I was there, I didn't, you know, circumstances changed and things moved and I didn't get it again. And it's just like, there's so little safety. And I don't know, it feels like there's so much more stuff that we're dealing with at this level that when we see, I don't want to call it petty, but like when we see some conversations happening over there about the open qualifier stuff, about that stuff, it's like, guys, you don't even know about how bad it can get. You don't even know about when the real shit goes down, what that's like. Like you're fighting over scraps here when you don't understand, like, you know, this doesn't get better. Like, if any up and coming caster thinks it gets better, no, bro, it doesn't get better. You're gonna get undercut. We're right now complaining about other people undercutting us. If you ever get to this level, you're gonna understand why we fucking complain about that.
Yeah, like Billy said, we could talk about this old podcast, but you know, let's maybe shift topics a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about the Valorant Oceanic Tour. Let's talk about the players. Because there has been a lot of action over the last few weeks since we last had our episode with Crash. And there's a few talking points I want to bring up, and the first one is ExoClan. ExoClan has returned under the name God Squad. They did win close qualifier number 2. However, it was probably closer than most people expected. They went 2-1 against Mindfreak, and then they went 2-1 against Fun Crew. Both of those series, off the top of my head, involved overtime maps. which I guess is a lot closer than what EXO was last year, when the only time they really got brought to overtime was against Order. So the number one question I'm going to pose it to you first, Racket, is it just a case of EXO being rusty? I mean, this open qualifier was their first tournament of 2021, whereas the other teams have had some practice into this. Or is the gap genuinely closing between the top and the middle?
It's an interesting question. I think, of course, we've had a lot of roster shuffles between a lot of the teams that were sort of contesting around for those slots at the top there. But for me personally, I'm not sure how sort of EXO Clan. It feels like they're sort of in this loop, if you know what I mean. Like, when are they going to be making the transition to NA, right? So for me, I don't know. I can't exactly gauge how much of an EXO Clan we are getting here. Like, are we getting 100% of EXO Clan? Are they taking this 100% seriously? I'm not saying like they're completely throwing games or anything like that or sandbagging, but they have been a very elite and dominant team throughout the scene's history, and we're just, I suppose, waiting to see throughout a lot of these matches if we can see sort of their former glory. But I'm not exactly sure. If they are sort of stuck in this loop or like void of the clock to NA, and how much this actually means to them. So I'm not exactly. I'd have to ask one of the players personally to sort of get that take from them.
Mitch, did you cast any of these games? I'll go last year.
I did. Yeah, so I casted the Mind Freak with EXO game, and casted a fair amount of these teams. I guess addressing like EXO in particular. I try not to, like, that's the thing. I feel like I'm always the pessimist, man, and I'm always the one that says shit that like makes everyone like feel shit about what's going on or whatever. But like, the reality is like, these are fucking seeding matches, man, and like there is not really a whole lot to play for. Like the prize pool is not fantastic. The opportunity is fantastic if you get the chance to go to NA and compete in NA. That's what people are really gunning for, and that's only at the top of like that closed qualifier kind of situation. So look, end of the day, I feel like people have this expectation that these teams are going to be like dominant or something like that, or that they're going to show their best form or whatever. It's 5 humans, boys. Like, everyone has intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, and at the end of the day, that's going to wax and wane, no matter what player, no matter what game, and at what level they play at. And I think it's the same thing for EXO Clan in particular, but also if you just look at a sort of broader scale as well, it's a brand new fucking game. Like, shit's changing every day. You might have some team that comes up with a 6 strat or something like that, or maybe you're just a little bit off kilter on that day. The parity is always fucking crazy at the starts of these games for the most part. So it's not surprising to see stuff like this happening right and left. And I think it's multifaceted in the reason why it occurs.
That, by the way,
before we get to you, Kev, I want to quickly post to you a different part of this, because while we're talking about things like complacency and teams like, I guess, not really performing up in a closed qualifier once they've already, like, when it's just seeding matches. The other concern, I guess, that has been raised with EXO, and this was on Twitter this week, was the comments about how EXO play against puggy teams. And I guess, like, this isn't necessarily an EXO specific question, but it's more like it will be an EXO specific answer. But like, for a very structured team like EXO, like, the pug teams could be the worst teams they play against, but does that make it like rightful to call someone a pug team and does that automatically qualify them as a bad team to face? Or
you've asked the wrong person this, because I'm the only one here that hasn't seen the tweet, so you need to show me the tweet so I can comment on it properly.
Look, it's basically just Crunchy complaining about Mind Freak being a pug team.
Yeah, so the thing about well, how is that different from Shazam, from Sentinels complaining about like, oh, this team's a pug team because they just run at us and they don't stretch? Like, it's this conversation happens across every single region, I'm sure. Happens in Korean on Naver for Korean teams, I'm pretty sure. Like, I don't know, but I just assume this is the case because this guy, you got a lot of new people coming to this game that are not CS people. They might not even be people that have played that much competitively in general. They could just be completely new esports people, like 15-year-olds fragging out that have never competed before. They're not going to know CS fundamentals. They're just huge aimers that are just going to come here and just roll you with a jet dash into a right click into your face, and that's it. And I get it. Like, I get that's frustrating to play into. And on some level, it's weird because yeah, this game does reward pugginess a lot, and you know, as someone that covers the NA region, I see that front and center when you got teams like FaZe that just won Challengers 3, who are known to be a very puggy team, and they just rolled 100 Thieves, who are like the most structured team maybe in the entire world right now, debatable. But you know what I'm saying? It's just like this is a conversation that's across the entire world, but you just translated to OCE. The 100 Thieves of our region is just EXO, who are very structured, and then you have a puggy team, which is Mindfreak or whoever, where they're less structured. But it kind of I don't know, the cynic in me just says, well, if it's not very good, you need to punish it. If they shouldn't be playing that way, beat them and punish them. And I'll be honest, they still won. EXO, well, God Squad still won. So I don't think that they lost. If they did lose, it would come off a little bit whiny. But I don't know. This game is not CS. I think people need to understand. It's like this game ultimately is not Counter-Strike. People need to stop bringing up Counter-Strike. People need to stop talking about this from the lens of Counter-Strike. Throw that shit away, because this is Valorant now. The game plays how the game plays. And, you know, I actually want to comment something that Mitch said. Mitch Pilski has said something important about how the meta changes. That's different in Counter-Strike as well. There's like no patches in Counter-Strike. The game is just like the same game forever. You're just playing chess. But here, there's like updates all the time. Shit's getting nerfed. The guns are changing costs. There's new agents. There's new, well, not a lot of new maps, but they're coming. There's new agents, and every single new agent just completely changes the face of the game. And that shifts up things so much. Whereas you look at Counter-Strike, the only time I think the hierarchy of teams really gets shifted is when a team implodes and different people join different rosters. But then you know who's going to be good. You know who the good players are, because we're playing the same game that everyone's kind of, I wouldn't say mastered, but they have a real strong idea because the game's been figured out. This game evolves and changes so much. You're going to see more upsets. You're going to see more teams get more success in different ways that teams who you think would win are maybe not prepared for. And I see Crunchy's frustration, but I also think that's just the game. This is just the game that we are playing.
Yeah, I remember I watched that game and I know what he was referring to. At least what I think he's referring to is Ascent. Like, I was casting that game and Mindfreak were literally just going to the A site like 8 rounds in a row on Ascent. And for the most part, it was just Dizzy playing solo there, and they were playing retake a lot of the time and maybe like overextending once or twice. And Mindfreak ended up winning Ascent and taking that like 13-10 or something like that. And if that's what he was referring to, I mean, I watched that whole series. I'm going to be honest, there's teams like, okay, like I'm not going to name it. I wouldn't usually name and shame, but I don't really feel like these guys are really that serious. But you've got teams like McTeam, for example, in OCE, where these guys are literally like 4-man pushing on defense. Like, that's a puggy team. For me, Mindfreak's not a puggy team. Like, these are a bunch of guys with a fair amount of experience. I think they played quite a good game, to be honest. And I don't think what they were doing was puggy. I think they were exploiting a weakness that they felt was there, and they did it multiple times. And they were going with the mentality. I mean, I talked to Watt about it because, I mean, for those who don't know, Watt was like an original shittier in CS. So I've known him for like ages.
One of the original shittiers.
He's an OG shittier.
I just love it.
What an actual shittier.
Is he so OG that he was a shit idiot, not a shittier?
He was a shit idiot. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. All things aside, I mean, yeah, it's like, I feel like they were just exploiting a weakness. I don't feel like it was that puggy, man. Like, they were just hitting the A site over and over again. And then they were like, well, we run around on the A site. Let's go to the A site. Oh, we run around on the A site. Let's go to the A site again. And they won 13-10. Like, well, I don't see what's puggy about that personally. But the thing that you have to understand as well is that I feel like when you're in the game, you get a different perspective for what's happening sometimes than, you know, the third person perspective or even the team that's playing against you. And you could feel like you're getting screwed by a team that is doing something random, which is actually not that random. And that's where, you know, maybe you shouldn't chuck a tweet out directly after the game, but go back and take a little look at the VOD and have a think about it maybe first.
He's frustrated. I get it. He's frustrated, and you know, like I just saw the tweet, courtesy of Dion. I don't think it's that disrespectful, but I can see like, I mean, it is saying like, oh, my Frigo puggy team, and it's disrespectful in that way by adding a label. But I don't think Crunch was meaning anything poor by it. He was not trying to attack anybody. He's just a little bit pissed that that game went as close as it did, when, you know, the pressure's on God Squad at all times. You know, they've been elevated on this pedestal as the best team ever, and no one should be able to touch them. And if someone gets close, it's like, hang on a second, did we make God bleed? It's kind of weird, right? And look, they are called the God Squad, so there it is. I mean, it's one of those things, and who knows? You know, maybe when we get to the non-qualifier games, we'll see some real action. But you know, Pilly's not wrong here either. They are just seeding games at the end of the day. Hard to know what the real result is.
I mean, I even saw it today in like ESCA Premier, the broadcast that we did. We had two teams right at the top of the table playing each other, and one team literally just let the other team play their two best maps and then got 0-2'd, but it didn't even matter. They're just like, hey, we just saw all your strats. Cheers for that, boys. Like, it's a seeding match, man. Like, especially if you're one of the better teams in the region and you don't. Sometimes it makes a difference. Like, you play a slightly weaker team or a slightly stronger team on the other side of the bracket, but if you're confident, you're confident at the end of the day. And it is a legitimate thing, you know, saving strats, seeing how the other team plays, not putting 100% in when there's not a ton on the line.
Yeah. Before we move on, I just want to bring up one thing that I found especially funny with what Kev said, was that he said Dion, like everyone just knew who Dion was. And then when he tried to say Ethan for Crunchy, he had to flick back to Crunchy. So everyone was, you're basically the epitome of the meme of like, yeah, I know Dion. We're like really close,
no
like that. I can use his first name. Like Dion is Komodo, by the way.
Yeah, I know pro casters. It's not a big deal to me, Kev. You know.
I'm friends with the only Valorant caster in all of OC according to Twitter, so it's not a big deal, guys.
True.
There's only one caster in all of. Apparently, there's only one Valorant caster in all of Oceania. That's Komodo. No one else is a Valorant caster here, so that's all good. But I know him and he's my mate, and that's all. That's fine with me.
Yeah. The second thing that I want to bring up from VOT is the meta, I guess. We kind of briefly touched on it then with Puggy teams and stuff, but there was a tweet this week from Slasher that really took my eye, I guess, and I'm not expecting you guys to have seen it, but he basically said that single duelist or no duelist is the best meta in Valorant. Anyone who's playing double or triple is out of their minds, is the general gist of the tweet. And so when I went and had a look at the VOT's, I guess, stats, you're looking at teams like 75 to 80% of the time running double duelist. Some maps it's 100% of the time, especially on like Haven. But I guess the big question here is OCE using double duelist as a crutch when other regions could potentially be progressing, or is double duelist, triple duelist the way to play the game?
How are Puggy teams going to win without duelists? Come on.
Oh shit, you're right. That's right. You're right.
End of story. Boom. Next topic.
It's true.
Shut down.
I guess that makes sense in some respect, because you got like ExoClan who basically only ran single duelists on every map because they like had the Sage 90% of the time.
Does anyone want to start? I can go on about this. Does anyone else want to start?
I could talk about.
Look, look, we've already beefed over this once this season, Kev, where like we brought it up in the last one where we were comparing Korean and NA Valorant. Okay. So I'm giving you the floor here again. Josh, put up the full screen camera. We're going to be here for 5 minutes. I'm getting a glass of water.
You don't have 5 minutes, dude. This podcast has got 17 minutes left, and I'll take 18 minutes.
Okay. Actually, I will say one thing before we get the we get the full discussion coming out here. For me personally, this is just me thinking of it as simplistic as possible. Duelists fundamentally are easy to play, and people get used to playing. Are they? That's I
beg to differ.
Okay, so if I say here's a flashbang, push after the flashbang, green light, like that's reasonably simple, right? Like for as like a general concept, go after the flashbang, or if you use a smoke, this area is not accessible. Like just general.
It's more straightforward to play. I wouldn't say it's easy. I think the duelists have the most difficult mechanics in all of Valorant. Like to actually play duelists well, like how many top tier jets can actually use her kit properly? Like mechanic wise, duelists are fucking hard to play. But I
think what I'm trying to say is like it's a lot easier to slip into a team comp. I guess because they're like mechanically flashy. It's really up to the player. It's not necessarily up to the core 5 as a whole.
Like for me, if we're going to be labeling like certain people as being more puggier, if we're looking at this duelist style, then wouldn't that make more sense than them trying a more like refined style without the duelist? Then if we're just going on the baseline concept that maybe us as a region of OC are more puggier.
It's to me. Well, we can get to that because it's about
the
teamwork.
Buzzword of the podcast.
It's about teamwork. It's about teamwork. Puggy teams have less teamwork. They require less teamwork to succeed, because if you just zug and zoom your way into a site and just fucking guns blazing and blah 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 blah, and then you're just gonna shoot people and just jet dash in and just hit some right clicks, and you don't need a lot of strats. Not gonna lie, like when I was on Direwolves and we lost that game in OVO to control. Like they literally just ran it down 5 on a site every single round, and it's just like you don't get puggier than that. But it can, you know, maybe that works with duelists. I get it. Like for some teams, they have less time. If you're shitty, it's not gonna lie. Like, and Pilly knows this as well. It's like you have less time to actually come up with good ways to gel as a team and work fully as a team. You're not gonna have the same defaults. You're not gonna have the, you know, unity to be on the same page like teams that have been together for a while, like God Squad, or, you know, with teams you have like really strong shot calling and really strong veterancy, like you look towards Order and Wildcard. It's going to be tough. You're almost going to lean more towards a puggy play style that succeeds via duelists popping off, because that's like one of the few ways you can get an edge on teams that are going to have better fundamentals than you. It's going to take time to learn those fundamentals, and maybe you're going to get there eventually. But in the short term, if you've got a match coming up this weekend, you're not fixing that problem by, you know, in a few days. You're just going to have to play what works. And for me, it's like I don't mind seeing that style work. I think both styles should be pretty relevant. I think eventually, if the game is better played, if teams are going to do what gets them the win more, what is going to succeed more percentage-wise, what is going to give you the better chance of winning. Teams will always do that no matter what. If that comes down to playing no duelist, one duelist, full default, slow, mid-roundies kind of style, full support kind of style, great. Everyone's going to play that. But if it comes down to, no, play 2 duelists, maybe even 3 duelists, go fast, go hard, use your mechanics, and that gives you a better win rate for percentage-wise, teams are going to do that. Teams are going to do what gives them the highest percentage chance of winning.
Yeah, I would agree with that to some extent. I think I could probably talk about this for like 5 hours, to be honest. But to like give cliff notes, I mean, first I'm going to defend my ego to Kev, which is that, you know, we didn't play puggy at all. We actually ran proper defaults, and we played really, really slow mid-round CS basically, because I looked at a lot of the maps and I'm like, this map looks like a CS map. This looks like Mirage. I'm going to chuck, you know, Kauth up here in this area, which I'm pretending is ladder room on Mirage, and then we're going to do the same thing, same sort of broad concept that we would do, just with the different utility sets. To talk specifically and answer the question, it doesn't fucking matter, dude. Like the characters have their own unique skill sets. Like, you're just putting a label on it for no reason. Like, to me, Sage is not a fucking sentinel. Like, Sage is almost like a duelist to me, because I just want to go get the fucking like reses. Like, you're just putting labels on a character that doesn't need the labels. Like, when I look at Raze, I think, fuck yeah, map control. Like, I'm taking Hooper every time. Like, that's a duelist, you know, but it has a very, very functional different skill set and purpose in terms of strategy than all the other characters do. You know, that's where, like, you know, you talk about initiator or controller or all this shit. Like, fuck that, man. It doesn't.
Most of those labels don't mean anything.
It literally does not mean anything. It's just a random label that a developer assigned to a character. And the only thing that matters is that you want to sort of make a certain character work or a certain style work within your team composition. And some styles are going to be easier to do that. And if the duelist characters just happen to be the ones that make it easier to work with, or even maybe it's not easier, maybe it's just more comfortable for the people because they go, haha, I like lots of frags and I insta-locked Raze in fucking 100 solo queue games. So now I can only play that character. I guess that's what they do. Fair enough. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's still a very, very new game. People are going to play what they're comfortable with and how they want to play. And at least for me, all I did was just look at the character's skill sets and think, how do I want to sort of work this map? So, like, a good example of that is I've fucking got Raze. I mean, everyone has Raze taking hookah control on as part of a default on bind. But another good example of that is split. Usually you'd think the Sentinel is going to be the wing player or something like that. I wanted our Sentinel on Killjoy to go into mid and chuck the turret on top of the boxes to stop people from peeking, and then use the swarm grenades to take map control. It's like, it's a fucking Sentinel, but who gives a fuck what it's called? And that is so like different from what Sage can do to Killjoy can do, but you just gave it the same label for no reason. It's like, okay, whatever, who cares?
Yeah, I see what you mean.
I mean, I will say, like, when I talk about shitty, I think I more refer to when I watch them play without you or Mac. But like, I see your position, so that's fine. I mean, I can agree on that. But I mean, the clear example to me is, like, if you actually look at who plays Sage, look internationally who plays Sage. Most of the Sage players are actually duelist players.
Yep.
On other maps where they're not playing Sage, they're on like a Phoenix, like no shit. So yeah, like it's even
in OS, you got Void old mates playing Phoenix in a series, old mates playing Phoenix,
Texter plays Sage,
and then
come on,
Texter, Pex, when he was playing for Mind Freak, he played like Arena, Phoenix, and Sage. It's like not the support player that's playing Sage. It's not a fucking supportive character, mate.
No, it's not. It's like Sage is not that. Sage is not a Sentinel supporting character that people think she is. But aside from that, like you hit the nail on the head. I think all these labels are just like, yeah, the developer slapped on a label, and anyone that just thinks like that's what it does, it's like, well, not really.
It just limits your thinking. It's like a way to dumb down the game in a way that doesn't need to be dumbed down, and all it does is just make for shitter analysis and shitter strategies.
Nail on the head. I really appreciate those points, and all I want to say is I feel like we should stop labeling things, I guess is the number one thing. Or if we do, Ray should just not be a duelist, because no one plays her like that. She's an initiator if you want to put a label on her, but like whatever. That's the number one thing that I think. I guess now,
moral of the story.
Yeah, moral of the story. Just play the goddamn game, please. Just do whatever works.
Run 0 duelist if it makes you happy. Whatever makes you happy. You know,
run 5 duelists.
Well, it's not even that. Now. Whatever you win with. Look, if you can run 0 duelists and win, power to you. That's the winning strategy. That's what you're going to win VOT with. You deserve to win by playing that.
Yeah, but if you want to play 4 duelists and a breach, you fucking go for it, mate. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I just want to see a full send. I'm ready.
But it's just like, you know, I don't know, saying like, no, this is the way the game should be played. It's like, cool, play that way, win, convince everybody that's true. Because if you do win, then you're going to shift the meta. Everyone's going to copy you, and that's what we're going to see. And that's, by the way, where like why this is something I've really dislike seeing, but every OS team playing Viper on Icebox, like copying NA meta from a month or 2 ago, like you guys are so far behind, you're not even funny. What it comes down to, I can tell what happened here is like some team ran, like EXO ran that in scrims at work, and everyone's like, well, better copy it. And they all do. And you have teams that actually don't know how to play Viper at all. Teams where this is just like completely ham-fisted. This doesn't work in your comp. This is not good for your style. If you're a puggy team, you probably shouldn't be playing the style at all. But teams are being influenced by scrims and influenced by what good teams are winning with to use this as well. So this, what I'm saying is 100% true, where look, whatever the best strategy that people think is gonna win, and then people are gonna copy that. So if 0 duelists is what's gonna win, people are gonna copy that. If not, it's gonna copy something else.
Dude, I'm still waiting for like people to break the game and be like, fuck it, man. I'm just running like Sova, Killjoy, Brimstone, and we're just playing hard retake the whole fucking game, and then we're playing for like get the spike down, and we're just gonna nuke you with like 4 fucking ults and all this shit. Like I'm legit waiting for some team in a big competition to just say, fuck you, we're legit playing all of these stupid ass characters that just play for the post player and retake. And I swear to God, I'm just waiting for the team that perfects that style, because it's going to be infuriating to play against, and everyone's going to copy paste it, I reckon. And like if I was going to try and be like a proper Valorant player, I would want to do some shit like that, because that would just make me so happy if you made it work.
Please sign me on your team if you do that, because that's the style of Valorant I love seeing.
The stall strategy.
Yeah. All right, Swifty, come on screen again. You're part of this 5-stack, so we're playing in the next VOT stage, yeah? All 5 of us, we're hopping on?
Yeah. I mean, we can if you want. I'm no good. I'm really no good. But I'll be a shit idiot, sure.
That's the spirit, mate. That's the spirit. Let's go.
Josh is going to come down and breathe the air of the of the bottom, of the ground floor, what that kind of smells like, and just going to hang out with the peasants for a day.
Yeah, as the Rupert Murdoch of esports should. Anyways, guys, we've only got 5 minutes. I've got a few more things that I want to smash through. We can skip over the roster stuff. Like, there's a whole bunch of things. I guess the number one thing of that is Demon has disbanded.
Demon.
The Demon
Quick
has
thoughts
disbanded.
on Demon. One thought each.
My predictions are wrong. The only predictions that we made last episode are right are Rackets, because he's the only one that has 2 functioning teams left.
I totally knew this, by the way, fellas. Just sort of thought into the future, and now everything's come to fruition. So look, he's laughing now.
Yeah.
What I thought.
Yeah, pick based on the team's best mental. Like, which team has the best mental here and won't implode? Those are the teams you want to go for.
Look, I wouldn't be
exactly,
picking
that's
order
a 900
IQ, but
thing.
like, look, that's where Racket's at right now. So like, we're getting there. Look, I'm just going to say quickly, the roster went boom reportedly because of Maple. I'm willing to say that because I was told that. Ferg and Gaza also reportedly retired off the back of it. And
oh my god!
This is what I've heard. This is unconfirmed, but what I've heard.
I mean, it makes sense. My dog's called Maple, and she just rips everything apart as well. So
I've met Maple. I've met your dog Maple. She's probably a better Valorant player than the actual play Maple. But
Jesus Christ! All right, fucking hell.
Oh Jesus, Kev really went there. All right, that's enough on that. You look, what's going to happen to the rest of the team? Nobody knows. Well, like that's basically it. I guess we'll see. I guess we'll see him in
OCE's hottest free agent.
Yeah, look, yeah, nobody knows what's really happening to him aside from the fact that hopefully they find homes. Well, the two of them that are left. I guess the big thing that I really want to quickly brush on is that we've talked about it a little bit, we've alluded to it somewhat, but there is a new Valorant tournament starting. It's the ESL Rising Heroes with $20,000 on the line. Pilski, resident ESL caster yourself, are you happy there's more Tier 1 competition in OCE?
Yeah, of course. I'm sure everyone will be, whether it's organized by ESL or whoever it's organized. I heard about this a little while ago, and it made me happy that we're seeing more of this kind of stuff happening and just have more opportunities for these teams to play and improve, because you know, I feel like there's almost been times where there's been some of these teams like kind of wondering what's on the horizon or what's coming up next, and you'd almost feel like there's going to be just non-stop things happening all the time when you know, you got a relatively new game. But I feel like it's somewhat unstable for some of these players, and you don't want to see them lose motivation or for rosters to go boom because there's nothing to play in. So that's just an extra thing for them to focus on, which is always good.
More tournaments are better. No one complains about more tournaments.
Yeah, Rack, I'm going to put this to you. Is like these smaller events enough to make up for, like, I guess the lack of the VCT here? Because like we don't have the direct into champions, but like, are these smaller events good enough to fill that void for now?
Well, it's something, right? And I think the most important thing, stability and players knowing when things are happening. So those boxes are ticked, and you know, people can prepare and participate, which is something that the Oceanic region can struggle with sometimes, with just everyone just guessing as to what can possibly happen for the future.
Yeah. Anyways, you guys can catch that in action. It starts at the end of March. I don't have the exact date in my head. It's running all the way through to June. Signups are available on the AOC website. To read more about it, I wrote an article on snowballesports.com. Be sure to check it out. All the information is in there. Finally, lads, one last thing to talk about. The new agent, the hottest topic, is Astra. She's finally launched in Valorant. I'm not sure if she's actually enabled for Masters this week. I don't think she is.
Probably be too soon.
Yeah, it's probably too soon. So I think the first time we'll see the new controller in action is in Stage 2. That applies for both VOT. Hopefully. I don't know what LPL's up to. And VCT globally. Initial thoughts, guys. Kev, I'll start with you. I think she's like incredibly complex, which like...
I thought you were going to start with me.
I mean, yeah, I'm giving you a lead here, bro. Shut up.
You bastard.
I think she's incredibly complex, which like lends well in some respects, but I think she might even be a little bit too complex.
Actually, she isn't. She in terms of utility, you just buy 3 stars every round if you can afford it. Like, she's super versatile. A lot of people think she's going to replace Omen on Smokes. I think she can replace Cypher and Killjoy on Sentinel, actually, depending on what the map. And obviously, you know, I'm talking about labels again. It's like, oh, what these labels are talking about. Like, but in general, in terms of the roles in the game, where usually you would have like the Cypher player, I think there's a real world where you consider maybe dumping the Cypher and trying Astra out, seeing how that goes. This is me theory crafting. Obviously, I don't know that for a fact. I haven't been part of scrim culture for a long time. I don't know what teams are putting in scrims and what they have succeeded or failed with. But the Yoru experiment came and went. It failed, and now we're ready for Astra. She's flexible enough with, especially the fake smokes. God, those fake smokes look broken to me. But she's flexible enough that I think there's a high likelihood of her being in play. I just don't know if she dethrones Omen, because Omen's too good. Omen's Paranoia is still the best ability in the game by far. It is just, in terms of pure util, that's not an ultimate. It's just so damn good. And so Omen, for that reason, plus global smokes and cheap stuff, is just like, it's too good. So Astra can maybe challenge Omen, but more likely, I think she challenges Cypher and Killjoy.
Hilly, are we going to see the shittiets pull out the 3-controller, all smoke, Brimstone, Omen, Astra set up to play retake and just like block out an entire side?
You think this is a joke, right? But like, I've actually thought about it where like you can use some of the smokes to take map control on your default, and then you got a whole nother set of smokes for the execute. Like, it's not even that stupid, to be honest. Don't know that you need to do that with Astra. I somewhat agree with like what Avril says. It's not necessarily just like a copy paste into the smokes role or whatever. And you know, it's labels again with the controller. Personally, it's like an interesting character because you got that whole RTS thing where it's like you know, you're plopping things down and you're playing StarCraft 2 for some reason in the middle of a Valorant game, and then putting your smoke
body
down on the map, a top-down view or whatever. So, like, I think it's interesting, but, you know, to be honest, I'm not sure how good it is. Yeah, you know, I always worry about these characters in a tactical FPS game that don't have their gun out, like Skye. That's one reason why people don't like Skye. I feel like there's so many abilities where you just don't have your gun out. You're like throwing a hawk and then you randomly like get shot or something. It's just, imagine you're just going in your little, you know, Astra thingy and then you just get shot. You don't have your gun out. But
which is ironic. Ironic because Skye is the only Australian character, but Australians love to just run in with their gun out, so it's just, it doesn't make sense.
True. No, I think she could be quite strong, honestly, from the lurk role. If you're doing like a 1-4, and you just like have Astra on the other side of the map, just doing all the stuff across the map, which is pretty stupid, but hey, it is what it is.
Astra just sits in spawn on Ascent in that little corner by the cafe.
Why not?
And just drops smokes from the
Just have a coffee. Just sit down, put your feet up, have a coffee, and run the strats for the boys. Let's see it.
Rack, do you think that we might see some play from her, or what's your thoughts on her?
Well, initially when Yoru came out, a lot of people were experimenting with him and just sort of came to the complication that he was too much work in order to deal with the sort of payoff. I feel like this character has a lot of tools in her kit. I even think that her crowd control abilities are actually pretty reasonable as well, considering the sort of time it takes for her to detonate. It's actually really strong in my opinion if you can detect where someone's going to be pathing towards an execute. But yeah, she has a bunch of tools within her kit, and I feel like this is an agent that if people do play a lot and practice, that you will reap the rewards. So I'm keen to see some Astra, and I think she's quite strong.
Well, lads, thank you so much for tonight. That's all we have time for. Thank you so much, Pilly, our very special guest. You can see his in the bottom of his corner, like my blue box, which I can't point to because I'm not good at this camera stuff. It's at Pilski Cast. Pilly, any final words, any shout outs you want to make, maybe to your dog Maple?
Shout out to my dog Maple, obviously, that's first and foremost. I would really like to do some more Valorant events, so please hire me so I can eat. I do enjoy food. And follow me at Pilski Cast on Twitter if you want to follow the 5th or 6th now most important niche in OCE. Thank you very much.
Look, I'm sure that with like 30 Valorant casters in 2 spots, you might be in for a job, mate. Who knows? Just try. Just put your hat in the ring.
Hierarchy on niches. The only other name in OC casting that there's a lot of is Jake. I just want to see a Jake versus Mitch battle. You know, all the casting Jakes versus all the casting Mitches.
Is Xenox even a caster though? I'm not sure if you watched his casting in the Rec GN R6 tournament, but that was maybe casting, maybe not casting.
He's more of a model, to be honest.
He is there. He's there for the camera play. He's not there for his audio expertise. And with that, before Xenox absolutely kills me. Thank you so much for watching tonight. I really appreciate it, and big thank you to our new presenting partner, Blue Microphones. You can check them out, their website. Just look them up, Blue Microphones on Google. Be sure to go and enter our giveaway and win, if you are lucky, a blue Snowball microphone. It closes tonight, midnight AEDT, so you only have a few hours left. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll be back soon.